Hello, my beautiful friends. Are you ready to get freaky? It's been a long time coming, and brief overview. I mean, I know there's been some of you that have been watching me for years and some of you that have never seen me before. So quick recap. I had a near-death experience as a child and spent quite a lot of time on the other side. In any case, I repressed a lot of those memories as a child, and then when I got older, I all of a sudden started getting dreams. Dreams that I know now are comparable to the dreams that people get in near-death experiences. I saw the same learning buildings, Greek-like learning buildings. I was in them. They were teaching me things, and it ultimately became my first book, Ultimate Power, which is now called The Frequency in its new printing. But in any case, from that information about the Mayans, Mayan calendar, connecting to our evolution as humans, right? I knew none of this myself, by the way. I was a cheerleader. Okay, long story short, I ended up winning a scholarship into the rainforest with Terence McKenna because he thought that somehow I could help the world. So I went down there and studied with him and a bunch of other scientists who couldn't really understand why I was there, because my only talent seemed to be talking to angels or the other side, or what they couldn't understand was some Mayan master that was coming to me as an Indian, White Eagle, as a matter of fact, whom I've written many books with now. Eighth dimensional being who has been here before, divine, angelic being full of love. In any case, after I got back from the rainforest, I had some friends in Topanga, and one of them was friends with Terence McKenna, and he had sent her DMT. Now, I want to preface this with, I was a cheerleader up until I won this scholarship. I was very straight. I was not somebody who experimented with drugs at all. And so the first time I did mushrooms was in the right prior to the Mayan rooms, but then I went into the Mayan rooms. I did mushrooms with Terence McKenna. And when I got out, I decided to try some other things just to see conscious-wise what they would do to me. Once, I tried ecstasy once, didn't really care for that as a spiritual tool. I tried acid once, freaked me out. Didn't do that again. So when the DMT came up and I had a chance to do it, it was very rare back then, and it had come from Terence himself in Maui. So a group of us, at the time I was married to a Capitol recording star, and his partner and some of my best friends went up to Topanga to do this journey with DMT. Now this was 1996, I'm thinking, okay. Long time ago. So we did it, we didn't just go do it like a drug. We did didgeridoos, and we brought crystals, and we sang, and we approached it very spiritually. And one by one we did it. And this is how Terence told us to do it, okay? So you would hold the, like a bong, smoking substance, and smoke it. Well, first you had to take a half a hit of acid and get a big light. And then you'd sit with somebody behind you and you'd smoke the DMT. And as you started to pass out, because you will pass out on DMT, the person was supposed to push you back up, and so you could do another hit of the DMT so you could get enough in. Because the thought was, you don't want to have an inner journey because that can get chaotic. You want to shoot out of your body and have an astral experience. Okay. So I'm up there, the light was supposed to help the visuals, and as was the half a hit of acid. So in any case, like I said, I'd only done acid once before. I'm not a fan. I'm not like somebody that has ever done it again, actually. But I want to tell you my story. So The first time I did it, I passed out, and I guess I didn't get enough. I had a complete internal trip where I went back to being, I was brutally sexually abused by a babysitter at 5. A horrible incident which caused my near-death experience. And just, I want to be clear, you don't always have to have a death of the body to have a near-death experience. If your spirit breaks off because you can't take the trauma you've been under, believe me, I was sitting up there with an angels for a long time before they talked me into coming back into my body. So if you see people that are walking around traumatized or lost, the chances are they're sitting up in heaven and they just can't come back and actually integrate into their body. I was one of those people. I had like 6 years where I was really just not in my body. I don't have a lot of memories. But in any case, the DMT took me back to my bedroom as a child right before the incident. And it was dark, and it was scary, and it was ugly, and I was afraid. And then I was in a hole, like a cave hole, and I looked up, and looking down at me were a bunch of aliens, is all I can say. They look like the Greys from the picture I see. And I didn't like them, and they were looking down at me. I got the idea they were not friendly, and I immediately wanted out of there. So I literally woke myself out of the DMT, sat up, and started like throwing up like air bubbles and stuff, and was just like, get this out of me. And everybody was kind of like, oh my God, like what happened? But first I want to start with, let's just go there. The initial thing when you did the DMT, before I went into this horrible experience, because I'm moving into a most amazing experience, because I dared myself to go try it again after this, because I knew that I had psychic gifts. I knew I had been places. I mean, I currently like still can communicate with the other side if people need it. I don't do it other than ascended masters I only work with to bring down gifts for the world. Those are the only things I want to tune into. But, you know, if somebody has passed, there's issues like stuck, you know, beings or something, I do work with that out of service to the soul. I'm in service to the light. In any case, kind of getting out there. When I did the DMT, the first thing that happened is like, you hear this, and everything comes into like, it looks like DNA helixes. And all I saw were like DNA helixes like flying around me, like I was in a microscopic world. And then suddenly I was in this maze of octagonal, like connected walls, and I felt trapped. I didn't like it. And out of the walls came these Egyptian beings, like you know, the gods you see with the crocodiles, and it would start to come out like, you know, those things like when, like we had when we were younger, like they were like, I don't know what they were, pencils or something, you could stick your face in it and would like kind of push it out, like morph out. That's what they were doing. They were morphing out of the geometry. And I was like, no, I don't want to see that. Like I was, because I felt stuck in this geometric maze, and these things were morphing out of it. I was like, oh, no, hell no, I don't want to get stuck in here with, you know, this Egyptian crocodile god I don't even know the name of. Okay, but lots of Egyptian imagery before I went into the regression and seeing myself in the abuse situation and the aliens. Okay, so I wake myself out of this. Mind you, everybody else has had amazing experiences where they're like flying around with dolphin and mermaids and talking to the sun and like just glorious experiences. I have this horrible experience. I'm like, oh my God, of all the people I thought would have a great experience, it would be me, because I'm really trying to help the world, and I channel angels, and I've been sent places and broke codes, and I was like, why did I have this? Like, what is this supposed to mean? So to tell you part 2 in a second. Okay, moving on. So my girlfriend Kai, who lived in Topanga, who had been friends with Terrence in Maui and knew him, she said, I have one more hit of this left, Do you want to do it? Because I know you had a bad experience. Do you want to try and do it and actually experience something good? So it took a lot of nerve. I got to tell you, it took a lot of nerve. I was very afraid. Like I said, I had not done many drugs, and then I had gone through an experiment period where I tried one, and then I literally wrote it down like a scientist. Oh, I felt like this, I felt like that. Don't ever want to do that again. Blah, blah, blah. You know, going through it. And I thought, oh, I don't know. I did this once. I'm not sure. And I was scared. I was scared. But I thought to myself, I have to do this. I have to do this. So I went back to her house in Topanga a couple weeks later. And I did the hit of DMT with her. No acid that time. Thank God. I don't think that helped. I don't know. Terrence said it helped the visuals, and maybe it did. But immediately, as soon as I did it, it was the same thing. There it was like, and like you were going into a molecular level, or what I can say is maybe the fabric of the universe, because we all are connected. I know that. And I know that we're 99.99% space, that Einstein said was maybe God, but that God, that's not empty. It's full of energy, right? And so the energy of the universe, it's multicolored, and it's like a woven fabric. And it's like something you see in Navajo rugs or Persian rugs, but it's like they were trying to imitate it and get it, but they couldn't quite get it because it's alien. And I have to say, like, it sounds so exciting, right? When you see something outside your realm of classification on the earth, it is in no way comforting. It's very upsetting because it breaks the bounds of what you think you knew. And also, like, there's beings that are out there. Like, the minute you pop through, they're like, hey, hi, you see me, kind of thing. And you're like, whoa, like, are they looking all the time? Or like, and then you realize, I realize now, we're at a lower frequency in the third dimension, which is why I write books about frequencies. And they're just at a higher frequency. And like a dog that can hear sounds that we can't hear, they can see us and we can't see them, which just kind of makes me feel like that book, like Dr. Seuss and the Who, you know, where I think the whole world's living in a little flower or something. In any case, immediately I went back to this room, this octagonal room of connecting octagons, and it looked like a maze. And again, I felt trapped in it. I'm like, oh God, no, I'm back. And once again, the Egyptian imagery starts morphing out of the walls. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see the crocodile guy. No, I don't want to see the weird cat lady either. Boom, and they'd start to take form, and then they'd go past. And all of a sudden, the Sphinx came out. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to talk to the Sphinx. And all of a sudden, everything disappeared, and the Sphinx was like, came up in front of me, and it had the nose. It had the nose, and didn't have the beard though. I think they put that on later or something. Okay, so this is where things get really freaky, and this is where they get really awesome. So, and this is where I'm gonna need your help. Warning, warning, here comes the freaky part. So up comes the Sphinx, and the Sphinx says, I'm your ally. And okay, granted, I'm on DMT in another dimension talking to the Sphinx, but I think to myself, well, this is good. The Sphinx is my ally. And then like the human me is like, what can the Sphinx do for me? I'm thinking, what can I ask the Sphinx to do? What do you mean you're my ally? What exactly are you going to do? You're this big giant, like, limestone or whatever you're made of in Egypt. And I'm thinking, okay. And then all of a sudden, he shoots to the side of the Sphinx, and kind of like a CSI thing goes in closer and closer to his ear. And he shows me this lever, and he says, this opens up my chest, okay? So boom, hit the lever, his chest opens up, okay? I go in through the chest, not the paws, not down, but through the chest into the Sphinx, and it full on looks like Star Trek, okay? Or kind of like a combo of like a Disneyland ride and Star Trek, but there was not too many, like 3 or 4 rows of people waiting patiently to beam out. And they were like you know, the things how like Star Trek would beam in and off of the ship. It was the exact same way. Only people were beaming in and off the planet. And then I woke up. Okay. I kept thinking about this. The next day, somebody walked up to me. I was working in a bookstore, and they wanted a book on Egyptology. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I'd like to be reading a book on Egyptology right now. I wasn't about to tell them I just talked to the Sphinx on DMT, but the guy said, yeah, there's this author, John Anthony West, my last name, I might add, and he said he just did new research on the Sphinx. And I'm like, is this a joke or something? Like this random dude walks in and starts talking about the Sphinx. Yeah, basically, John Anthony West did geological testing and found out that the Sphinx is like, now don't quote me, I'm just off it. It was like 1,000,000 years older than we thought it was. That it was there when there was, I think, 1,000 years of rain. Like all the pyramids, so basically the Sphinx was there 1,000,000 years earlier, and then the Egyptians saw the Sphinx and said, hey, let's put the pyramids behind it. Because the pyramids all have markings from sand and wind, but the markings on the Sphinx are from 1,000 years of water. Okay. My guess is that the Sphinx was one of the first portals, stargates, that was put on the planet to bring life forms in. That's my guess. And since I also ended up getting information and like kind of connecting codes with the Mayans, I do believe that the Mayans are also related because, you know, in the Mayan runes, the only other mummy that exists is in the Mayan runes, and that's Pakal Volcan, and with the Tree of Life and all of that. They're very connected. And, you know, anyway, let's shoot forward. All of a sudden, I'm looking today, and it's just randomly, because I happen to be watching things about people with near-death experiences, and I see this thing about this Russian genius, this young Russian boy, who's a genius, was already in school at 2 years old, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was also very aware of past lives and talked about living on Mars, and that a whole civilization had been built on Mars after Earth had been destroyed, and he was part of that frontier group living on Mars, although they were also warring, which is sad to hear, but in any case, he went on, and so this genius also said he was from Mars and was talking about all this stuff. Well, all of a sudden, 9-year-old, he starts talking about the Sphinx. And he said, it's the Sphinx who holds the answer to stopping the end of the world. And I was like, wow, okay, this is so bizarre, right? And all of a sudden, he says, on the side of the Sphinx, there's an opening that opens up the chest of the Sphinx, and there's something really important in there. And I'm like, oh my God. Because, you know, it's one thing to have visions and or psychedelic experiences, although DMT is not a psychedelic experience. It's a near-death experience, which is why I do not recommend it if you are not very strong and have prepared spiritually, mentally, and physically to undertake it. It's upsetting. It can be, and it'll literally challenge everything you know about your reality. And a lot of people can't take that, you know. A close friend of mine that did it had been sober for a long time and then went back to being an addict afterwards. It just shook his world so much. So it's not anything to be played with, you know. The Great White Spirit, the Indians, they didn't just run up the hill and be like, tell me what you got, Great White Spirit. They fasted, they prayed, they worked out, they prepared. And I just say, if you are going to do DMT, understand you're standing on the doorway of death, mind, body, spirit, and you better be strong enough to hold on, because it is going to rock your world. Now, I know some people didn't have as intense experiences and they can do it and be like, oh, I just saw lots of colors. Well, if you have a real DMT experience, you are going to leave your body and see beings that are alien, and it is not comforting. In this case, I felt like I really need to get into the Sphinx. Because the other thing I was given, and this is why I'm asking for your help, Does anyone know anybody in Egypt? Because here's the deal. Codes that are broken, that are important, the keys, like if they found something, because they did find this cavern between the Sphinx. It's there. Many years later, this is all real. It is true. Exactly what the Sphinx told me. But they won't let anybody in it, right? And the deal is, certain things are only open to the right frequencies, right? So you have got to be a frequency that is the correct key to unlock it, if you will. It's not a physical key. That's why none of them over there have been able to figure out what's going on inside the Sphinx. Because ultimately, I kind of think about it, it's like the atomic bomb. Like, I mean, what if Einstein had never told anybody about it or how to make it? What if we didn't have any nukes on this planet? Or like freaking stupid North Koreans are blowing up nukes underneath the ground that are affecting the tilt of the planet, like, you know, killing our Earth, ultimately everybody on it, is a real possibility in our world right now. And no great information is going to be given to lower realms anymore. So I believe the key's only going to be given to somebody that would use it, you know, in a good way for the salvation of the earth and the people and the animals and plants on it. Let's face it, it's a hellstorm of death going on right now. And I figure this stuff came to my, I don't know. I haven't been talking about this in such a long time, but when I saw this in this prodigy from Russia that said the exact same thing, I knew, like, this is the truth. And I need to get into the Sphinx. And I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know what I'll find. I really don't. Maybe I'll get in there total dud. Maybe I'll get in there and be able to, like, save human consciousness and rise us up to, like, euphoria, bliss, and loving each other instead of wars. I don't know. But if anyone can get me anywhere close to inside of the Sphinx, I think I need to go. And I will fly there immediately. I fly for free. I'll go tomorrow if somebody has some way for me to get in, because I think it might be one of my missions on the planet to do that. And, you know, with the Mayan runes, oddly, you know, they didn't understand any of the hieroglyphics. And then there was this girl, Linda Sheely, about 30 years ago now. She was an art student in Austin, a young girl. She went to the Mayan runes to look at, you know, the Mayan art. And while she was over there, boom, goes back in time, decodes all the hieroglyphics in the Mayan runes, okay? She is now the expert on Mayan hieroglyphics. Are you getting what I'm talking about? Frequencies. The right frequencies will download information. I need to get into the Sphinx. The Sphinx told me all of this, and I know I'm here to help the world. I know that's why I came. I know that's why I came back here. I know that's what I'm doing here. And if anyone can help me, knows anybody in the Egyptian, I don't know who's in charge, royals or whatever, I'd love to know about it. And I'd love to know what you think about this. And yeah, that was my DMT trip, and that's why I need your help. Thanks, everyone. And I hope this didn't freak you out too much. But you know what? No time left to hide or fool around. Let's just be real and be all we can be.